Welcome to a Metro Siege update. The first update in a long while and hopefully the first of many over the next coming months. So good news on the Metro Siege front, we're going to be launching a Kickstarter very soon, and it's going to be for the Amiga and Neo Geo and Windows versions of the game. The Amiga version will be the first version released, so even though today I'm going to be talking about the Windows version, and Amiga fans, please don't be disheartened. But as I said, today we're going to talk about the Windows version. So our goal for this version of the game is to make it authentically 16-bit, but just to make it feel a bit more natural on modern systems, we've made some changes to the engine. So the first thing you can probably notice is that we've got a widescreen resolution, so that's just going to make it seem a bit more natural when you're playing it on your PC. You can see the HUD is, unlike the Amiga version, which has a separate HUD section, the HUD on this version is just overlaid on top of the game. One thing that you can probably notice if you've paid much attention to the graphics on the Amiga, now bear in mind these are all work in progress graphics, so these are not final graphics by any means, but what you will see is that the graphics of our characters, unlike the Amiga version, which are made up of parts using the amazing Retro Animator tool, this version, all of the graphics are full frame, so each frame is individually drawn. So that just means we get a little bit more accuracy in each of the animation frames and a little bit more flexibility, because we don't have to make them up from the limited parts library that we do when we're putting together animations for the Amiga version. You'll see up in the top right hand corner that we've got some additional parallax layers. You can see we've got a scrolling sky clouds, and we've got a new mid layer with large buildings. Once again, just slightly less limitations on the PC compared to the Amiga, so we've got a bit more flexibility with things like background animations, etc. The frame rate, so the Amiga version currently runs at 25 FPS. This modern version will run at whatever frame rate your monitor refreshes at. So in this case, my Mac runs at 120 Hertz, so we're getting 120 FPS. But the game should run really at any frame rate that your monitor can do, because it's obviously not taxing on a system compared to most modern games. With the additional frame rate, we've also now got a thing that we'll call sub-pixel rendering. So with the graphics still at the low resolution, so the graphics are approximately 320 by 200, a little bit different with the widescreen resolution, but that's a very low resolution graphics. And on a high resolution screen at 120 Hertz, what that would mean is quantized scrolling rendering. So I can disable sub-pixel rendering here, and straight away you'd notice that the sky in the top right hand corner, each pixel movement, when it animates is noticeably not smooth, and the same is true for all character movement. When things move more quickly, it's harder to see, but with our sub-pixel rendering enabled, even the character movements are noticeably smoother, and you can really notice it in the slow moving things like the black screen scrolling and the sky scrolling in the top far background. You can probably see our new shadows that we have for the modern version. These are obviously synced to the character animations. We actually have a little debug tool that we can use to tune our shadows. You can see we can change a lot of the parameters that make these shadows up. Where they're positioning, how blurry they are, even the color. All of these parameters just let us tune the shadows, but those shadows will be pre-tuned for the game. Let's talk about X-ray. So one of the things that some of the players found when we released our Amiga demo is that these far foreground objects can really obscure the action, and so we had an option to turn them off in the Amiga version. In the modern version, we're also going to have an option to do what we call X-ray, which is basically just meaning that you can see through these far foreground objects so that they won't obscure the action while you're playing. Finally, we've got additional buttons, obviously. So at the moment, going to be making use of more controller buttons. In this current version, we've got dedicated buttons for blocking and for picking up items. But during development, we're obviously going to fine-tune all the controls, but we'll probably make use of as many controller buttons as we can in the modern version. I guess the last thing I could quickly show is, because we've got very few limitations, we can have heaps more enemies on screen. So this is just a quick demo of what it might look like to have a bunch of enemies on screen compared to the Amiga version. This is not how we would anticipate a stage to start with, this sort of level of enemies, but we've really got no limits on the amount of enemies we have, so we might have some options in the Amiga for a sort of nightmarish all-in battle version where you can just have a crazy number of enemies. We'll see how it progresses. So there we are. Get on the metrosiege.com website and sign up to the BitBeam Canon mailing list to get those extra Kickstarter tiers. We hope people will want to support the Kickstarter. Stay tuned. Hopefully in the next update I'll be able to give some updates on the Neo Geo version engine that we've been working on, and then in the not too distant future updates on the Amiga version. So have fun. See you next time.